Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into one of the most dramatic and most debated moments in the entire Three Kingdoms saga, the final words of a dying emperor.
So let's set the scene. The year is 223 AD. Emperor Liu Bei, the founder of Shu Han, is on his deathbed in the city of Baidicheng. He's just suffered a massive, catastrophic military defeat, and he knows the end is near. He calls for his most brilliant strategist, his prime minister, Zhuge for one last conversation, one that would change history. And those are the words that have just echoed through the centuries, leaving historians and scholars scratching their heads for almost 2,000 years. Was this a genuine offer, born out of pure, absolute faith? Or was it something way, way more calculated? All right, so let's tackle this with the most straightforward interpretation, the one that the ancient historian Qin Shou really championed. He saw this moment as the ultimate, most beautiful act of trust you could possibly have between a lord and his subject. And, the evidence for genuine trust is pretty compelling. Liu Bei and Zhuge Liang had this legendary partnership, famously described as being like a fish in water. Liu Bei went around telling people his advisor was 10 times more talented than his main rival, Cao Pi. He even told his own son to treat Zhuge Liang like a second father. I mean, this goes way beyond professional respect. This was deeply personal. Now, this level of trust really stands out when you compare it to the other big players of the time. You had guys like Cao Cao, who was notoriously suspicious of his own people, always keeping a wary eye on guys like Sima Yi. So Liu Bei's willingness to just hand over the keys to the kingdom to Zhuge Liang, that was practically unheard of. But not everyone buys that simple story of pure trust. A lot of modern critics look at this and see something much darker, and frankly, a much more brilliant political game being played. The theory goes that Liu Bei wasn't gambling at all. He was setting what one commentator, Mao Zedong, called a preemptive trap. It's this incredibly shrewd maneuver where you basically use someone's own good character against them. So how did this moral trap actually work? Well, it's a three-step masterpiece. First, Liu Bei makes this incredible offer that he knows the super honorable Zhuge Liang could never, ever accept. Second, just as predicted, Zhuge Liang's deep loyalty kicks in and he violently refuses. We're talking he kowtowed so hard his head was bleeding. And third, that incredibly dramatic public display of loyalty creates this unbreakable moral bond. It basically locks Zhuge Liang into a lifetime of service to Liu Bei's son, because if he ever went back on it, he'd look like the world's biggest hypocrite. And to add another layer of complexity here, some scholars argue that the original wording, which we often translate as take the throne, could also just mean make your own decision. This suggests Liu Bei might have been given Zhuge Liang permission to replace the heir with a different brother if things went south, which is still a huge amount of power, but it's a political calculation, not a full-on abdication. Okay, so we've got the trust theory on one hand and the trap theory on the other. But there is one more crucial piece to this whole puzzle. A final move Liu Bei made on his deathbed that kind of complicates both of these ideas. And this is where you see the absolute political genius of Liu Bei, because he didn't just entrust the state to Zhuge Liang. At the exact same time he made that incredible offer, he appointed a co-regent to share the power. That co-regent was a man named Li Yan. And as you can see, these two guys represented rival factions. Zhu Zhilang was the leader of the Outsiders, the crew that had followed Liu Bei for years. But Li Yan, he represented the powerful local elites of the region. So by putting them side by side, Liu Bei created this brilliant system of checks and balances. He made sure no single person or group could ever get a total monopoly on power. So where does all of this leave us? Was it an act of supreme trust? Or was it a cunning political trap? Well, the most crucial point here is that it was never a simple case of either or. The real genius of Liu Bei's final act is that it was both. He was playing chess on multiple boards at the same time. He genuinely trusted Zhuge Liang more than anyone on earth. But he was also a master politician who understood that absolute power can corrupt anyone. So he put his most trusted man inside what you could call a moral cage with that offer, while at the very same time building a political balancing mechanism with Li Yan. It was an amazing strategy that secured his son's throne using both incredible faith and brilliant foresight. And all of this leaves us with a pretty provocative final question, doesn't it? In leadership, does true trust always have to be paired with some kind of cage? Do you have to place absolute faith in someone while also building a system to make sure that faith is never really put to the ultimate test? It's a timeless question about power that Liu Bei's last testament really forces us to think about.